This is Joe Pugh for IFLTV. Delighted to be joined by Mr. Gareth A Davies in Hong Kong before he goes to Saudi Arabia. Yeah, how are you, G?
I'm good. I've got Crypto Fight Week here in Hong Kong, the first of the year before I head to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia later in the week. We've got all the crypto guys here. There's a big conference, obviously presenting that event with Rhiannon Dixon and Anthony Croller on the presentation crew with me this week. And then heading to Riyadh for that amazing, massive card as it is, topped by Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. I'm very well though, thank you.
All good, Gareth. Yeah, look, the bulk of this interview is going to be on the Last Crescendo, but there's two things I want to ask you about before we get on to that. First of those being Jack Catterall the weekend, suffering his second career defeat. In many eyes, his first real defeat against Arnold Barboza Jr. Yeah, your thoughts on the fight.
Well, I was in the studio at Talk Sport presenting on the night, and it looked like a very close fight on the monitor to me. I thought Jack was doing very well early in the fight, but obviously we had Alois Jr. in the studio during it as well, so we were kind of, or we had other interviews to do, and we've just had half an eye on the screen and so on. It looked very, very close, very tight fight, and obviously borne out with the split decision 15-13 to Arnold Barboza on the night, who was obviously ecstatic to get the close victory away from home. Testament to the judges. I think they got it just about right. It was a very, very tight affair. I've watched it back, and I think Barboza was a fair winner in it. I think you do give 7 rounds to 5 to him, although there were some really close rounds. He boxed a really smart fight. Jack was just a little bit off colour on the night, and I agree with you. That's his first genuine loss of his career. Heartbreaking for him, really. He's such an unlucky fighter, where he could have been undisputed champion, of course, in that first fight against Josh Taylor. But you've got to take your hats off to Arnold Barboza Jr. for going over to Manchester and pulling it off against the home favourite.
Yeah, how big of an upset was that for you, Gareth?
Well, Barboza's not a big puncher, and Jack goes 12 rounds, so Jack isn't a destroyer of fighters. So it was always going to be a close affair. I picked Jack Catterall to win it on points. Um, And Barboza's proven. And what is he? 32-0 now. He's not a big knockout guy, but he's very comfortable in the office. And he fought a great fight on the night. He was busier, marginally busier the whole time. You look at the punch stats, and you look at his output, and he nullified Jack in lots of ways. So um, he's a good champion. I don't know if he has the beating of Teo Lopez. Certainly, Teo Lopez on his day, I would say, would be a big favourite against Barboza.
Yeah, look, straight after the fight, I spoke to him. He's calling out to Teofimo Lopez for Alcatraz. Yeah, interesting settings that broke last week. But I think whoever Teofimo Lopez fights in Alcatraz, that'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
Oh, it's an amazing thought that the Saudi Arabians are being very, very inventive with venues now. I think Turkey Al Sheikh came up with that venue. You can call it Prison Break, can't you, or whatever you want to call the promotion. Spent quite a lot of time in San Francisco in my life, and it's going to be an amazing venue. I mean, getting out there on boats and all of those kind of things, and it being an island in the ocean, it spawned all these ideas um, for other venues like under the Eiffel Tower and next to Stonehenge and the pyramids at Giza, the Mayan Aztec pyramids. There's so many great ideas. I mean, I remember years ago, I was talking about this on Saturday night, how World Squash took one of its courts to Grand Central Station in New York. Well, you obviously couldn't do boxing down there, but the commuters were passing this kind of glass. The athletes, the players couldn't see it because from inside the court you couldn't see out. But from outside the court, the commuters were able to watch the World Squash Championships going on. I think it's a really good idea. I think it's really inventive. Um, I mean, I've been to some unusual venues in my time. And obviously, they've had fights on boats before. I remember when Tyson Fury was going to fight Vladimir Klitschko for the second time, and there was talk about it being on a super yacht with an audience of 200, all paying 10,000 for a ticket, and apparently, an Arab sheikh was going to put up the money at the time. I've been in a circus tent in Verona, New York, when the daughters of Joe Frazier and then Muhammad Ali fought. Jackie Frazier lied and Layla Ali. That was in a big circus tent in Verona, New York. I mean, everyone's getting more inventive at the moment, so I think we will get some amazing things. If it happens at Alcatraz, it's unmissable.
So,
And can we get away from it? That's the point. Locked up in Alcatraz.
well, there might be a few people not be able to get off the island, that's for sure. Yeah, the other news broke out last week was Alexander Usyk, only two more fights. Yeah, I think there's a lot of speculation after the second Tyson Fury fight as how long he was going to go on for. What else does he need to prove? Were you shocked by his admission that he's only got two more?
Not really. He's 38 coming up, isn't he? I think 38. I think he's 38 now. He's certainly got a lot of miles on the clock. He's been around a long time in the sport. And, you can't go on forever. You're going to get beaten in the end. And I think he signalled on his 6 rounds on the London Eye, or however many times he went around it. That thing moves very slowly, by the way. So I think he did one with Bellew, one with Talksport, one with a group of journos. And look, he signalled that, I think quite strongly, that the strongest contender for his next fight is going to be the winner of Joseph Parker and Daniel Dubois in Riyadh this weekend, which makes sense because it's an undisputed title fight. And then another. Who is that going to be? Could it be a Jaya Pataya coming up to heavyweight? That's a great matchup. Trying to think who else it would be. I mean, if Joseph Parker beats Dubois, it's a fascinating scenario because it's a heavyweight he hasn't fought. I don't think it'll be Derek Chisora, even though Derek's forcing himself into the picture in an amazing way after his victory. But it doesn't surprise me at all that there's only two fights left for Alexander Usyk. He can't go on forever.
Could we see a mad world where his last fight could be Moses Atalma?
Could we? Yes, because I think anything's possible in boxing right now. And if Frank Warren, Moses Atalma, Francis Warren, obviously who manages Moses, Alexander Usyk agrees, and Turki Al Sheikh fancies that, then yeah, it could happen. There's no question about it. And it'll be Alexander Usyk fighting Moses Atalma before he gets too good at his age. But I mean, that would be amazing for Moses Atalma to be able to fight Alexander Usyk before he's 21. That would just be incredible because I think he's 21 in December, isn't he? December the 28th from memory, something like that. So that would be incredible. If we can make that happen, or if the world of boxing can make that happen, it would be an incredible moment.
Yeah, as you say, anything can
The
happen.
big thing is as well, Joe,
Sure.
it's who would be favourite in that fight. Obviously Alexander would be a big favourite, but the youth and the extreme vim and vigour that Moses Atalma and the fearlessness he has at this age would make it an incredible build-up and an incredible fight. And he'd go in there and throw everything at Usyk. The more I think about it, the more exciting it gets. You've been mulling it over, I can see.
Yeah, look, it'd be probably the best passing of the torch moment. Kind of shades of Lennox and Klitschko back in the day. I know there was a big age difference between kind of Moses and Klitschko, but it's got that same kind of feel to it.
just big. Yeah, like you say, the crucial part of it is the generational shift. Alexander, we could say, is old enough to be his father. So it's a big generational shift. Moses come through so quickly, and he appears to be ready for anyone, maybe apart from the few guys at the very top, based on experience. But to throw that out there at the moment, we can do that right now because the fantasy fights that fans dream of are possible to dream into existence right now because of where we're at with boxing.
Okay, let's get into it. The Last Crescendo. Yeah, you're going to be out in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh after
Later in the week,
Hong
yeah,
Kong.
can't wait.
I think let's just go through every fight on the card. All could be main events, and just give us a little breakdown and your prediction for each fight. Yeah, we'll start at the bottom and work our way up. And I can't believe I'm saying it's the bottom, the first fight on the card. Joshua Buatsi versus Callum Smith. Yeah, who are you going with?
Very tough test for Joshua Buatsi because Callum Smith has been and is so good. And he's a big, long, rangy, powerful fighter with great levers. I'm going Joshua Buatsi on points.
Okay,
I think
straight
he
into it.
steps up. I think he steps up every time.
Do you feel like we're coming to this could be the end of Callum Smith should Joshua Buatsi beats him on Saturday?
Well, I mean, that's not for me to say because it just depends what happens in the fight. Callum had a very tough fight last year against Artur Beterbiev. I don't think he was at his best on the night, but also we know how dangerous the thrashing machine that Artur Beterbiev is. I was there live at that fight, and Beterbiev was brilliant on the night. I don't want to say it's the end, but it might be for him, it might not. It all depends what happens in the actual action, but I've got Buatsi points winning this.
Moving on to probably, for me, the most intriguing fight on the whole card, and that's Zhang versus Ajit Kabayel. Your thoughts on that?
Zhang's very dangerous early in this fight. Big puncher, looks very conditioned when I've seen him up live for this one. That's been the big kind of stumbling block for him in all his heavyweight fights in recent times. His conditioning, he looks in really good shape. He looks leaner, but I've got Agit Kabayel points. I just think he's pretty special and he's coming into his own. But Zhang will be dangerous early with those heavy hands and that sneaky southpaw style.
We talk about potential opponents for Usyk's last fight. The winner of that could be right up there with that WBC ranking.
Completely agree. But I think the Usyk journey right now is headed towards the winner of Dubois and Parker, obviously because of Undisputed. But this is a very important fight for where it's a top 10 heavyweights fight. Maybe number 6 and 8 in the division fighting each other in this contest.
Virgil Ortiz Jr. versus Israel Madrimov, Gareth.
Wow, this is a great fight between two very tough men, two brilliant fighters. We saw how good Israel Madrimov was in just getting pipped by Terence Crawford last August in Los Angeles. I just think Virgil Ortiz is pretty special as a fighter as well. He's had a couple of little moments in recent fights, but I think he's just very special and very comfortable fighting. I just think he wins on points, or even I don't think I've predicted he could win by stoppage because he stopped so many of his opponents. But Madrimov's so tough. Virgil Ortiz points or late stoppage.
Very interesting. Carlos Adames versus Hamza Sherz, the first of the world title fights on the card.
Yeah, I don't often pick on heart, but I'm also picking on how well he's gone in his career so far and how he's stepped up the levels every time it's been asked of him. But I just think Hamza Shiraz has got elite, potentially elite level power, definitely world class qualities, and I'm going to go for him to get to Adames late in the fight. I think maybe there's a little bit of heart picking overhead in this one, because it wouldn't surprise me if Adames did win this one. He's a very skilled fighter, but I just think Hamza's got special qualities, and I could see him winning on points or by late stoppage.
I don't know whether this is from the British media or the British fight fans' perspective, but do you feel like people are underestimating Carlos Adames in this fight? Because
I
all
think,
I've heard is Hamza.
yeah, I think we all are to a certain extent, because the Hamza is spoken about in such glowing terms by our media, but this is the actual acid test. It's the world title fight, and it's hasn't come a moment too soon. He needs that now. He's seasoned, and I think it's perfect timing. But Adames, even though people say Yanibek Alim Kanuli is probably the best in the division in terms of toughness and skills and size and all those things right now, I think Adames is very, very skilled, and he's had a very well staged career so far. But yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a little bit of up talk about Hamza, but I get why. He's produced every time it's been asked of him, so it's a fascinating, mouth-watering contest. But I'm going for Hamza.
Do you think there's a possibility we see Hamza Shiraz versus Canelo in
I
those
do. If
short
he wins
fights?
this, I do indeed. I think that's the natural progression. We potentially see a Saul Canelo Alvarez fight next year. Um, I mean, I'm picking Terence Crawford to beat him on points in Las Vegas in September from this
Wow.
juncture, but um, it would not surprise me to see Hamza Shiraz, if he wins a world title at middleweight and defends it, stepping up super middleweight to fight Saul Canelo Alvarez next year. Would not surprise me in the slightest.
Now, someone I know you're a very big fan of, Shakur Stevenson versus Floyd Schofield.
Look, Kid Austin is clearly, I mean, I hate to use the word prospects over him, because what is he, 14 and 0, 16 and 0? I'm a little jet lagged right now.
I think
14,
he's
16, 0,
16 and 0, I think, Gareth. I think.
16 and 0. Look, he's Kid Austin is a great up and coming fighter, massive confidence, great physique. Um, but Shakur has that cool cat about him that is so skilled. It's going to be a really good fight, this. And he's the right person, maybe the right foil to get the very best out of Shakur Stevenson. I'm going Stevenson points in an absolute thriller. I think he's getting Schofield at the right time.
You mentioned that
And there's
there.
that weird thing that I think it might have been one of you at the weekend on IFLTV interviewed. Was it Kid Austin's dad?
Yeah, this was today. This was
Oh,
today.
it's today. I saw the interview earlier. I had a little look at it, and,
Yeah.
and apparently, Kid Austin's dad was saying that they're related.
He said they were family friends. And
They're family friends, but very close family friends. And what I liked about Shakur was he closed it down and said, no, he's telling lies, because mentally he doesn't want to get into that idea, that journey that he's going to beat someone who's a very kind of close member of the clan, if you like. I thought he's very smart at dealing with those kind of things, but I just think Shaka gets the job done on points.
you mentioned there about bringing the best out of Shakur Stevenson. And I think for a long time now, I think it's widely kind of assumed that the better the fighter that Shakur fights will get the best out of him. Is this the start of this with Riyadh season? I know everyone will talk about the tank fight until it happens. Hopefully it happens. But this is the type of caliber of opponent that Shakur needs.
It is. It is the caliber of opponent he needs. But I think we're a bit hard on Shakur. I mean, he doesn't do a lot wrong. He goes in there, he shows brilliant boxing skills. No one seems to be able to push him to the limit. We all want the Gervonta Davis fight. It's one of the super fights in the sport. I'm sure it'll happen next year. I really do think it'll happen. They won't be able to keep the two apart if Gervonta keeps winning and Shakur keeps winning. Obviously, Gervonta's got some Lamont Roach coming up, hasn't he? Early next month, I think it is. So yeah, I just think we're hard on Shakur. I'm a huge advocate for his abilities in the ring, and not everyone goes in there and knocks their opponents out. And even when he dominates, there's still a skill to what he's doing, and why should he overcommit when he's dominating and outboxing opponents? He's not the most fan favorite fighter out there, but he's still absolutely brilliant at what he does. And 2 years from now, if he beats Gervonta, if he keeps winning, we might be saying that he's the pound for pound number one. He's got the potential to go all the way to the very, very top of the tree of the garden of boxing, if you like.
Okay, moving on to the IBF heavyweight champion of the world, Daniel Dubois. He takes on his challenger in Joseph Parker. Gareth, your thoughts?
Well, I'm just sitting here today, actually. I've just been penning a piece on, writing a piece on Daniel Dubois for the Telegraph for later in the week, and this extraordinary story of the kid that started doing push-ups at the age of 5 and was made to run around the estate in Greenwich by his dad with his other siblings, and how there's potentially 4 of them, Father Stan believes, out of the 11 kids he believes will be world champions. Obviously, we've got Caroline and Daniel already, with Prince and Solomon to come, according to Stan. So this kid that could do push-ups by the time he was 10 for 2 hours, beggars belief, actually, when you hear Daniel told me himself that a few years back. And I just think he's got the confidence now, born out of the growth that he's made in the last 2 years, the performances after the broken eye socket against Joe Joyce, the loss to Alexander Usyk, the desire to fight Usyk again and get in there and win the undisputed title against Usyk for a second bout, in a second championship bout. I think lots of things for me stack up in the favour of Daniel Dubois. It was heavy in both hands. He's coming off a fantastic victory against Anthony Joshua. He looks to have no fear inside of him, that he can go out there and express himself, that he wants to entertain us. Yet on the other hand, Joseph Parker's reached full maturity. He's a bigger physical specimen. If Daniel Dubois doesn't set a rhythm and a momentum, Joseph Parker could easily take over this fight himself. I just think Daniel Dubois is going to win this fight by stoppage inside the first 2/3 of the fight. So inside 8 rounds. So I'm going Daniel round 6, 7, 8 by stoppage.
Joseph Parker's trainer, Andy Lee, has come out in an interview this week and said he believes Joseph's last 2 opponents, which were Deontay Wilder and Zhang, both hit harder than Daniel Dubois. Do you agree with that statement, Gareth?
Yeah, but also I think Anthony Joshua hits harder, if not as hard as them as well. And look what he did to Anthony Joshua. Zhang is a big puncher, and he had Joseph down twice. Deontay Wilder looked a little bit like a shadow of himself against Joseph, even though Joseph had a great game plan, getting in and under and throwing over that big right over the top time and time again, and jabbing really well. He was brilliant on the night. I think Dubois' punches are much more direct. Zhang's are sneaky and unseen, but Dubois, in that shape he finds, his jab and his right hand and the way he moves, he's a very dangerous opponent. Joseph's got to get his jab going early and get the respect of Dubois. There's no doubt about that. But if he can get Dubois out of his rhythm, he could win the fight. I'm not ruling him out. This is a 55-45 for me, or a 52-48. Usyk put it the other day in favour of Dubois. It's a 55-45 fight for me in favour of Dubois, but the first few rounds will be really telling in this fight.
Well, you talk about 55-45s. They don't come any closer than the main event, Artur Beterbiev versus Dmitry Bivol. The rematch, the undisputed rematch of that excellent fight back in October. Before we actually talk about the rematch, can you remind us who you had winning that first fight, Gareth?
I picked Bivol to win the first fight on points. I had Beterbiev 7-5 in the end. I had it even tiny bit wider to begin with, but you know, 9 of the rounds I thought were fairly clear to score, and the judges agreed on 9 of the rounds. I thought Beterbiev definitely won at 7-5, being there live on the night. I think Bivol will make improvements this time. Part of me wants there to be a trilogy between these two. So I'm going Bivol on points, but it wouldn't surprise me if Beterbiev followed up and was a carbon copy of the first fight where he's more aggressive and he gets the eye of the judges. But Bivol's got to be more aggressive and land more punches this time and finish and end the rounds a bit stronger. Got me in trouble with Beterbiev at the press conference because he overheard me saying to Bivol, you need to win the second fight. But it could go either way. It could be a draw. I almost feel like these two are so good. We need 36 rounds between them, almost to finish their careers. If that does end their careers, they belong on the same. They belong on the same plane, even though they've got vastly differing styles. They belong in the same place in terms of their skill sets and abilities. I'm going Bivol on points again, as I did the first time, and I was wrong then, and Beterbiev just won. I may be wrong this time, but I think it'll be a very, very close fight, whatever happens. Some people feel that Beterbiev will stop Bivol this time, but he didn't look like he was going to stop him last time, and I don't think he'll stop him this time.
Yeah, that was my next question. Do you feel like this fight does go the full 12 once again?
I do. I do. It goes 12, and I've got Bivol on points. But again, as I say, it wouldn't surprise me if Beterbiev won as well on points. But I think it'll go the full 12. I think they're both very savvy. Beterbiev is a bit more of a savage than Bivol. But I literally can't wait for it.
Just last question. How refreshing is it that we've got that rematch so quick for all the belts? Probably the fastest turnover of any kind of unified world title fight, certainly at that level. And it feels like this isn't a one-off. This is what we're getting thick and fast right now.
Yeah, well, you look at the schedule all the way till, well, if we know that Canelo's fighting in May against William Skull and he's fighting Terence Crawford in September, if you look at the schedule to April and then beyond, obviously with April 26th at Tottenham Hotspur with Ben and Eubank Jr., you look at even the women's fight on March the 7th, I think it is,
Yeah.
at the Albert Hall with Lauren Price, Natasha Jonas, Nick Ball and TJ Doheny. And then this, like you say, this turnaround where they've put these two fighters together, they're all getting paid really well at the moment. I think things are flying in boxing right now. And we said it all along. Many of us who knew the plans in the background of the Saudi Arabians and who'd met Turki Al Sheikh and his team, they were very serious about the intent. Look how we talked about it last week. I think look how Turki Al Sheikh handled the Canelo Jake Paul scenario. He wants pure boxing at the moment. It's an amazing time in the sport, and I think everyone's benefiting as a result. It's very, very refreshing.
Excellent, Gareth. I shall let you enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, best of luck with Crypto Fight Night. And we will see you in Riyadh for the big one.
Indeed. Always a pleasure. Cheers, my friends.